What is up, guys? Welcome to today's video. As you guys see in the title, we will be doing some 86 dash work repair, but pretty much all is the same. If you have an older car that's been sitting in the sun, most likely this will help you out as well. Let me show you guys what we're working with today. This is the dash that we got for that car. The biggest issue you guys can tell is obviously it is cracking. A lot of this cracking happens due to the sunlight, and if you guys can tell here, like even with a little corner, I can just break it off very easily. So the outside leather is essentially no good anymore. And yeah, it's pretty much going all over. A lot of this, the way we're going to repair it, is not your ideal. So if you guys have some really expensive car or something, if you want to retain the value of your car, you probably don't want to do this. For our situation or for our scenario, I don't really mind fixing a dash this way, just because the whole car is not going to be a $100,000 car. With that being said, first step is smoothing this surface out. We're going to be taking a grinding wheel. So I actually just bought this wheel. This one is 7-inch diameter wheel versus your regular 4-inch, and you guys can tell the big difference. The main reason I'm going to be using this one instead of this one is because obviously the contact patch of this one will be a lot more, which will cost less of a dip in the material itself. So we do want to sand it down, but we don't want to go through it all the way. And the smoother it is from here to here, essentially, the less Bondo. And the less Bondo, the less likely for it to come up. And that takes us to the next thing we'll be using. Yeah, so we're going to be using this fiberglass resin jelly, and the main reason we're going to be using this one instead of your traditional Bondo is because this one has little fibers that will more or less go into the cracks better, and it'll help hopefully with it being a tiny bit more flexible, especially since it's going to be in a missile. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to start off by grinding some of this down. Obviously where it is not cracked or anything like that, we're just going to scuff the surface a touch, not too much, just scuff it up so that whatever we put on this sticks a little bit. And these things, you're going to have to feel it out and just make sure that it's flat. Like even this tiny little thing, it pops up. So you guys will tell once I start sanding it out. Okay, now we're good to go. Okay, so yeah, biggest issue is it heats up and it actually rubberizes. Before we continue any farther, actually, I'm going to go ahead and disassemble a lot of these things. It still has the AC system back here, so I'm gonna take this stuff off. Again, I forgot to say it, but shout out to Mr. Sheriff again. Let's go ahead and remove these things. Okay guys, disclaimer, the way we're gonna fix this is not the professional route, but it is an effective route that I've done in the past. Okay, I bit the bullet. I went to go get the right stuff. This is the correct stuff to bond pretty much anything together. This will do it. You just got to be careful because of the fumes it has, so you make sure you're in a well ventilated area or have a face mask on. So I was in the middle of sanding these down, and I quickly realized that the more I sanded, the more flexible it got, very so slightly. And so we are going to switch the way of doing this for a second here. So the way we're going to fill these gaps in is, yes, when you touch it, it sticks up. So we're gonna have to sand this down. But the problem is that when I do sand this down, it's so soft in here that it'll start peeling it back. And a lot of it comes with it, and a lot of this comes out as well. So we're going to try to avoid as much material from in here coming out. And we're going to do this, a little piece of paper, just whatever, and then pour some baking powder into the crack. You got to fill it up all the way. Don't be stingy. Try and do that, and then you'll see it's coming out of the bottom, so just try and take it all the way through the crack. Make sure it's flush, and then any excess you're going to take off. Now that you have it in there, you're gonna grab this stuff and throw a couple of drops in it. And same with the baking powder, don't be stingy and stay clear because this is gonna create some fumes. As always, whenever you're recording it, it doesn't turn out as good, but the idea is to put it into the crack with the baking powder and it'll make a chemical reaction and turn into like a plastic cement type thing. Not even, it's like rock hard and it's good stuff. And that will ensure the cracks are filled 100%, and it'll also ensure that the dash doesn't flex while we're trying to either cut into it to sand it down, or afterwards, once it's healed, at least there's no voids in between that'll create another crack. Also into like little voids like this that you're missing part of your dash, or if you put some in there, it'll come out. What you do is you can put this right on the edge, fold it back, go back and add some of this, throw some in there, fill in the gap. There you go. Then you just let it drop into it. Just let it dry, and then like up here, it's like rock hard. Feel that smoke coming out? Careful with all those fumes. So you actually have to build it slowly, not just fill it in, because if you fill it in, there's going to be a little gap in the middle. So don't just put a whole bunch and then try to put super glue. You're going to probably have to like build up into the cracks, which it's going to take some time. You're going to use a lot of crazy glue and a lot of baking powder, but this stuff is cheap, so I mean, it's not a big deal. Okay, so now once you have everything super glued up, it should turn into a plastic. This is the regular rubber. You can tell not very hard. And then this is the plastic that you super glued. You may not still be able to tell, but it essentially turns into like a really hard plastic that, I mean, it's proven a lot of times everywhere. The problem is if you pack it in too much, it'll essentially get too dense and then the super glue won't travel to the bottom. So that's why I kind of just laid it over the top. I tried not to rub it in, but some parts, like you could tell, it's a little whiter than others. That means most likely the super glue didn't get too deep in there. So once you start sanding, you may reveal some of that powder and you'll have to add another drop or two of super glue. Now we're gonna get to the part where we start sanding this down. I'm gonna go first and knock down some of the highest spots with the flap wheel here, but then after we get a certain depth, you may have to start using a sanding block so that it's as smooth as can be. Well, time to sand it by hand, and it's probably a good thing, that way you can feel it out a little bit better than with this. Okay guys, so we have done most of the sanding, but there's a couple things I wanted to show you. I'm not even gonna lie, I pulled out the DA sander. It's just 10 times better, 10 times faster, and I mean, keeps your hands cleaner. Too late for that anyways. If you guys notice, where I put this, the baking powder or baking soda and super glue, whenever I went to sand it, it was a better fade, if that makes any sense. Less of this actually peeled off with it. Now we're going to do the obvious and do the Bondo work, the filler. Last time I used this, I'm pretty sure was on the red truck before paint. I used a lot there. It's almost even the same color as this dash. All right, so we're going to start here. Kind of starting to harden a little bit, I think. Gotta move quick. Yep. Yeah. Like that. Once it starts doing that, you're done. That's it. Now just let it dry. Come back, sand it, see if we need another coat or if this will be enough. This one is a very different color than this one. I'm hoping I put enough hardener. I put very little because last time it hardened too quick. So hopefully it'll eventually dry. Okay guys, so we have a test spot. We sanded down just to make sure it was dry because this still feels kind of tacky. For some reason it feels a little tackier than this one. But I think it's just due to the less amount of hardener. But once you sand it down, it does just fine. It is definitely hard. So now with that, we have the green light to continue sanding everything and then figure out if we have to apply another coat or if that'll stay as is. It is pretty much done. We have sanded down all the edges smooth. This is actually really nice. It may look like it's got some patchiness here to it, but it came out way better than what it was. These dashes actually, they tend to do a little bit of a waviness to begin with, even without it cracking. So it is actually a lot better than that. Over here, everything went pretty smooth. I mean, it is not going to be perfect even after everything is done, just because you have to give it, if you want it to be like that much better, you have to give it a lot of time. I'm also going to lay down a layer of paint so that whenever I do put the material that I'm going to put over it, it all looks one color, kind of like a base coat or something like that, so that, or like a primer, so that the actual material that's going to be on there is all the same. I remembered I had a rack outside, so I brought it outside and painted it black, matte black. So far it looks really good. You'll be able to tell a couple imperfections still. We'll give it some more time and then we will start with the actual material that we're going to have on top of this, because I'm not just going to paint it. A couple things you're going to need, or the way we're going to do this, is we're going to be flocking it. If you're not aware, flocking is essentially like a suede or like a powder. It's like a little fine powder. You can kind of tell there a little bit, but it's just a bunch of little fibers that you throw at it with this mini flocker. So with this, you're going to be doing this action. You put this in here, then you just kind of like sprinkle it over the top like pixie dust. And before that, you have to put a adhesive. And they sell just random different color adhesives. This one in particular is a wine color. You can see it in the sun. It looks so pretty. We're gonna get to work. Wish us luck. that's done. I am not sure how I'm feeling about it. The problem was that it was out in the sun and the adhesive was drying too quick. So I made the mistake of applying it in the sun, and the dash was already really hot, so you know, it accelerated all the drying. I think I may have caught it in time. I do have a backup plan just in case, but if not, then we'll wait it out. For now, keep it drying and hope for the best. See you guys in a little bit, or see you guys tomorrow. This is the aftermath of the dash. It is not exactly installed. We're still missing the AC vents and all this stuff. It's just kind of sat into place. Some of this, honestly, some of this could be a little bit better, but for the time spent, not horrible. Okay, yeah, so it's going to be hard to catch the full color. But if you guys can tell, this is essentially the shadow from the sun, and the way that the shadow comes about it, it's like kind of like, you see, it's wavy. So to begin with, the dash wasn't even 100% level up top over here, so that was a part of it. But you guys can tell this material, it's not bad. The color isn't too crazy. It's not perfect. If I could go back and do this again, what I would do is probably not let the dash out in the sun for the glue or the adhesive to dry. I think that was a big problem. The adhesive dried up, and by the time I put some of this material on it, it wasn't 100% like dry, like it stuck, but I feel like as much as I wanted to, didn't stick. At the end of the day, if you want a perfect dash, you know, best way about it is buying it. I don't know that they sell them. They might. In this case scenario, it looks pretty good. I actually really like the color. It's not perfect, but I like that flashy 80s vibe it gives me. It's been a while since I've done anything besides 86 videos, but like I said, I wanted to focus on the 86 and try to pump this car out so that we can move on to more interesting things, maybe like drifting or just other things in general. Maybe some shop updates. We have a couple of those. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you all for watching. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you guys like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.